In this video, we'll cover 3 unconventional and useful hacks that will help you learn Japanese that you've never heard before. Remember to like and subscribe to show the algorithm that you're serious about learning Japanese. And comment below if you have some tips of your own. Number 1. How to make sure you keep going. Learning Japanese requires you to study for a prolonged period of time. If Japanese could be learned in a few days, then every anime fan would be fluent. One great method for making sure that you do the work is to try to keep a streak going. Jerry Seinfeld would apparently do this to make sure he was writing new jokes every day. For each day when he spent some time writing, he would mark off his calendar. Then he would try to keep that streak going for as long as possible. This method works pretty well, and I've used it to keep progress going for several different things, including making sure I write every day. The problem with this method is that you will inevitably slip up. When you do, having to start over again can be discouraging. You might have accumulated a long streak by then, but then you're back to square one. The worst thing you can do then is to just stop. Many people might feel that since they have slipped up, they might as well use the time to slack off. If you do this, then you might never start up again. This slip up has happened several times to me as well. My best streak writing every day was over 1,100 days before I forgot to write one day. That's over 3 years straight. It wasn't fun to start back at zero, I can tell you that. What works better than just keeping a streak going is to also count your successes. If you list the days you managed to work on your Japanese in one column and the days you missed in another, then you won't feel like you lose something when you slip up. This makes it much easier to continue on, which is the most important part of learning. You can still count a streak and aim to keep it going as long as possible, but you will still see how much you've managed to progress. Number 2. Cultivating discipline through intermittent fasting and making use of mornings. One of the biggest problems learners have is distractions. Whether it's your phone or someone needing you to do something, distractions can prevent you from doing what you want to do. One time you don't have any outside distractions is in the morning. The only distractions you might have are self-imposed. Another benefit of your mornings is that you have a say in how long they are, because you can always choose to get up a bit earlier. Sleep is of course a consideration here, so you need to go to bed earlier for this to work. One way to start doing this is to get up 15 minutes earlier until you reach your desired waking time, be it 6 a.m., 5 a.m., or even earlier. It's worth considering how you feel, because 4:30 might be too early for some, even if you ease into it. If you can't concentrate during the rest of the day, then it's too early for you. The good thing about easing into it is that it's a lot better than just setting the alarm clock an hour or two earlier than normal. You might manage to wake up early for a day or two, but then you might oversleep. Another thing to consider is that you need to be productive during this time. If you can't focus in the morning, then there's no use in getting up early. Also, with sustained focus, you can accomplish a lot, so you don't necessarily need to study for 3 hours each morning to see results. Food also plays a huge role in your ability to focus, which is why I do intermittent fasting. I'm not saying that you should, I'm just saying that it works for me. Check with your doctor if it's right for you. Intermittent fasting is essentially eating within a set window of time. In practice, it means skipping breakfast and not snacking before lunch, so that lunch becomes the first meal of the day. Then I will eat my last meal within an 8-hour window. You might wonder why I do this, and the reason is that it helps me to focus. I'm much sharper in the morning if I don't eat than if I do. Another factor is the time it takes to eat breakfast. If I do something productive instead, then I will already have accomplished something important in the morning before going to work. Mornings are a good time to read Japanese if you don't do it already. Watch this video here to get some tips on how to get started with reading native level Japanese. And watch this short to see the first book I read in Japanese. Number 3. The stopwatch technique. To make sure you really study, take out a stopwatch and start it when you start studying. Whenever you get interrupted or start daydreaming or doing something else, pause it. This technique is really powerful because it teaches you to remain focused. It will show you clearly when you drift off, as well as how much time you actually spend studying. I'm actually using this technique right now, and it makes it easier to get finished fast with your to-do list. You might think you spend a lot of time studying, But if you check your phone or think about unrelated things, then you're really not. The more you do, the worse it gets, because you condition yourself to become easily distracted. It's almost as if your mind is looking to get you distracted. You'll see this a lot at study halls at universities, for example. People might sit there for 8 hours, but they don't study for all 8 of them. Instead, they might do a lot of other things that aren't really productive at all. It's much better to spend your study time 100% focused on your work and then go do something else. It's amazing how much you can accomplish in little time with sustained focus, and this technique will give you just that. Just remember to actually hit stop when you drift off. If you don't do this, then the technique won't work. Remember that what you do gets reinforced, so try to remain as consistent as you can. The real secret to learning Japanese is really simple, it's just doing the work. Try to incorporate these 3 things into your daily life and see how much of a difference they make. Like and subscribe and watch this video next.